My name is Rebecca Brill, and this is the Clinton Arrow Podcast.
So we have a kind of a fairly large population of EL, English language learners. We call them ELs. How do you refer to these students?
ELs, English learners.
English learners, okay. Because for a while when I was teaching, we talked about our English language learners, but it kind of shifted to where now it's English learners because they're pretty proficient in their native languages when they show up, which is amazing. I remember showing up just a little while ago and seeing two students in here who could speak more words in multiple languages than I could, and it was just amazing. How did you end up getting into this to where teaching these students and letting them learn English while growing here in the Clinton Public School District? How did you jump into this?
So I first decided I wanted to be a language teacher when I was a language student. I did study abroad in France when I was in university, and I just loved being immersed in a new culture and surrounded by people from all over the world. I attended a really great language school there, and I just look back and I want to be the teacher like the teachers I had there, and they just had excellent pedagogy. They pushed us to interact with each other, and they made learning really fun. And so to be a language teacher, I was first a language student. I think that's really important. And then in terms of teaching English, my first experience was my husband and I lived overseas for a few years in West Africa, and I taught at a night school there. And I just really loved being able to meet a practical need for my students that would help them in furthering their education and also their careers.
So the challenges have to be present, not just for the students, but also for you and for other teachers. So what kind of challenges do these English as a second language learners face? So I kind of put this in here. I've said we get the obvious, there's learning a new language, right? So that's kind of the hurdle, first hurdle there. When you get these students in 2nd through 5th grade, those are the students you get to see every day. What are the different levels of them knowing English versus not knowing English?
Yes. So something that I often encounter with the younger students, especially 2nd and 3rd grade, is literacy skills. Can they read in their first language? If they can, what kind of tools do they have? Do they have a phonics background? Because that's something we really push now at the elementary level, is having a phonics background. So I do a lot of laying a foundation. As they get older, like 4th grade and up, most of them are literate in their first language. So then I just need to teach them like vocabulary and things like that. For my students, especially the newcomers, that's what we refer to students who've been here less than a year. They are in constant input mode where they receive language all day. Either it's through classroom instruction, social interactions with peers. It's very overwhelming. No matter their age, it's just very overwhelming for them, and they rarely have, I call it genuine output opportunities. Where they can talk without, being nervous or being corrected with peers and with teachers. And that's the environment I want to create in this room. It's just a very relaxed, we can work together to figure out what we need to say. And so that's what I want English class to be for my students.
And I'm assuming in their regular classrooms with their regular teachers, they're making new friends. So these other new friends are getting to see something different. How do those friendships kind of build out?
That's probably one of the most heartwarming parts of my job, is seeing our students in Clinton Public Schools reach out to my students. And of course, they come in here and they're with their friends who may speak the same language as them, may not, but the best teachers are their peers, because those are the ones that they're most comfortable with. And I love seeing their native English speaking peers teaching them, how to play a game or reading a book with them. And that's just more than I can do, because they are so comfortable with their peers. Yeah. And it also creates a really great worldview for all of our students, because they're getting a mix of cultures in a classroom, and that's just really special.
I've noticed that kids tend to be pretty resilient when it comes to that, learning new things, meeting new people. But with us, the adults, we tend to be the ones that are stuck in our own old ways, and this is how it should be. So I have a feeling that our teachers are presented with some challenges when they see on their list, their roster, okay, I have an EL student. What kind of challenges do these teachers kind of meet on a daily basis, and then how have you seen them work collaboratively with you to kind of make the year the best that it can be?
Yes, so I regularly get the question, how can I scaffold for my students? How can I modify the best way I can? I often get, can I just translate the test to see what they can do? And so I always want to encourage teachers that using the first language is a tool, but we don't want to use it as a crutch. And so a lot of times for a particular set of vocabulary, they might make a visual, vocabulary list for my students, or they might, write out directions for a task so that they can complete it. But our teachers really emphasize on what do our students know in English? Can they do the skill in English? And so they're master scaffolders in both buildings at Northside and Eastside. They know their students, they know their strengths, they praise their strengths. And I'm always proud when my teachers come to me and tell me what their students have shared in class or ways they've seen their students improve. I think that's really important. And these instances just show me that our staff is really invested in our EL students and their families, and they see them as an asset in their classrooms. So
we're servicing students across K through 12 with various languages. I think, there's over 20 languages possibility. That's amazing. So how have your other peers that teach EL at the other campuses, what kind of relationship have y'all built to make the most out of this year?
Yes, we have a really great camaraderie. I would say that our K-5 model is very similar. Miss Lewis at Clinton Park, we work really closely together, and our pullout model is very similar in terms of scheduling. I inherit all of her students, and so she's really great at telling me, where they're coming in at, and so that's really helpful. And then we also have a new high school English teacher, and she's been really great with reaching out to us, and it's just been really great being able to share resources and talk about writing language service plans and things like that. So we make a great team.
So generally speaking, everybody's kind of scaffolding together and working together, but what does it really look like at each campus? Because I got a feeling dealing with a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old is probably fairly different than dealing with a 7th grader, and then very different than dealing with an 11th or 12th grader.
Yes. So 7th through 12th grade, they are in a special English learner class where they receive direct instruction on those things. They incorporate a lot of their academic vocabulary into that. And then K through 6, they receive more of a pull-out program during their enrichment hour. So district-wide in Clinton, we have, for K-5, we have an enrichment hour tutorial block. And so that's when my students come to me. That's when all students receive their pull-out services, whether it's gifted class or intervention, English class, speech. All my students come during that time. And we just have to coordinate if they have another service as well that they have to go to. And so as the EL teacher at Northside and Eastside, I pull a small group of students, 2nd through 5th grade. Sometimes they're mixed with grades, and that tends to work very well. And they come on a daily basis. If it's their first year in the United States, they come on a daily basis. Some of them only come 2 or 3 days a week, depending on their English level. And when they come to English class, we work on things like vocabulary, grammar, conversation, and just language exposure.
Objectively speaking, in public schools, we're always going to have an assessment at the end of the year. And this past year was the first year we had ELPA. And I remember talking to you earlier at the very beginning of the school year, and you were very pleased with how that assessment was given, but then you said it had some real teeth in it to let you know something about it. What did you see from this assessment, and how did that let you know that what you did really made a difference?
So prior to this year, we've taken loss links for our English learners, and this year they did change to the ELPA 21 test. My opinion is that ELPA is much more age appropriate. It's very user friendly, and it is a better assessment of student growth. And so students are given a score of 1 to 5 for their different domains of language. And so the domains are speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And they have to receive a 4 or 5 in all of those domains to be considered proficient. And that gives them an overall score of being proficient. And so my students took the test in March. They expressed that they felt successful after finishing the test. A lot of them left the testing room smiling, whereas they usually look kind of defeated. And they all just said, it was great. Like, I feel like I showed what I know, and so that's all I needed to hear. And the statistics and the exit numbers, they do generate some talk, but it's their level of confidence after they finish that test that I'm most proud of.
So you mentioned your numbers. I've got them right here. So we've got you're reaching a 4 or 5, so that's proficient and advanced. So that's the numbers that we're looking for. But then they kind of exit out. What does that mean when they exit out of that?
So when students are considered proficient, they enter a monitor status for being an English learner, and that's a 4-year process. And we just continue to check in on them and make sure that their grades are staying, at a good place, and just making sure they don't need any additional resources. But they no longer have to take the ELPA test.
So those Northside numbers, we're talking about numbers, right? I'll brag on you so that you don't have to brag on yourself, even though I think you're amazing and everybody else does. Numbers-wise, we're looking at Northside having 22 of 58 students pass the ELPA test, make a 4 or 5. That's 38%. That's a big time percent. Eastside had 46%, which ended up being 27 out of 59 students. That was the highest in the district. These are numbers. These are great numbers, and it's fun to put a chart and certificates and all that kind of stuff. But these numbers have to say something a little bit deeper. What does it say about our Clinton family?
So when I look at the test scores, I don't consider it to be just the numbers for me. It's about the growth that these students have experienced. And when they praise the numbers and they mention, my name or the school's name, I just always say, I didn't take the test. I'm so incredibly proud of these students and all their hard work. In terms of family, I look at all the people that have been cheering for these students. I look at the administrators in our buildings, the team at central office, and how committed everyone is to resourcing our students, finding great professional development opportunities for us, and just asking us as the EL teachers for input. I also am just so thankful for their classroom teachers, their intervention teachers, activity teachers, everyone they interact with in our buildings. Every person is trying to create a welcoming environment for our EL students. And also for the parents of these students, it's a big deal to have a student that has been considered to be proficient in a second language. That's a really big deal. And as a parent of children in the district, I also think of the profound effect that these students have on my children and the friendships that they've given to my kids, and just that their peers are given the opportunity to become empathetic to people from another culture. They get to be helpers in the classroom, and they just have a greater worldview overall. And so it's really just creating the kind of environment that I love for our whole school district.
So, kind of a curveball question. I throw curveball questions in every single one, and everybody's always surprised.
I would expect nothing less.
Of course. So you've set them up for something that they can actually down the road, that when they grow up, they'll get to see at the high school. They can achieve the seal of biliteracy, which is an amazing thing. We'll have more on that later on. But that's something really cool, that these young 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders can truly finish high school fluent in 2 languages. I'm barely fluent in 1, so I'm just so jealous of these kids that have this ability. But kind of the last thing going in, 24-25 is over. Y'all did a great job. It was wonderful, but the laurels are fading, and we're getting ready to take off into 25-26. We're in week 7 right now, I believe, 6 or 7. So what do the goals look like for the 25-26 school year? I'd say kind of overall, but then also specifically for you and your campuses.
Yes. So personally, I'm not setting a goal of numbers of students to exit or a percentage to exit. My main goal this year is to see growth from all of my students in all of their areas. So if they weren't proficient last year and they got a 3, I would love to see them move up to a 4. For my newcomers last year who might not have said a single word on the speaking section, I would love for them to engage in that, and they would, maybe go up a level or so. So I just look for growth. And I would say, like in K-5, we look at all areas to see growth. So looking at their reading proficiency growth, at their MAP scores, language goals, those kinds of things, just looking in growth in all those areas as well.
All right, this is really the last question.
Okay.
We all have a reason we keep coming back. Every day is a grind. Every year is different. What keeps you coming back here? Why do you keep serving these students?
You're going to make my nose kind of hot. I just think that I have a really unique opportunity to engage a group of children that sometimes can be like an underdog a little bit, and they don't get as much of a focus. And it's just the most rewarding thing to see them become more confident every day, and to make friends, and to just their personalities just shine in the confidence that they're given. It's just a really beautiful thing.